The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video. So, I have an opinion about Jujutsu Kaisen. Toji Girl is a very interesting character to me, and it's not because he is so pretty, but it's because I think his craze is a great example of what can happen to a person if their community fails them and they don't have anything or anyone else to turn to. Toji has done some very stupid shit that I can't defend, and one of those being that he went out here and pulled a jagged stone on us. But one thing I will say is that I don't like his bitch ass family at all. That being the Zenins. The best way to put it is that the Zenins are the Kardashians of Jujutsu Kaisen. Because like the Kardashians, the Zenins are a problematic but powerful and wealthy family. Because Toji's family did not give him the love and support that he needed growing up, he eventually left. And then he found another person, that being the woman that he married. He found someone that gave him love, something that his biological family never gave him. You want to know how bad the Zenin family is? When it was time for him and that woman to get married, instead of taking the traditional route of her taking his last name, he took hers. That's how awful that family is. And even after she died, and when Toji started to act a fool, he never went back to the Zenins, nor did he take their last name back at all. Toji Fushiguro is a prime example of community failure. Okay, Harry, what the fuck does this have to do with Monster High? Walk with me? Walk with me? Walk with me. Hey y'all, it's Harriyanna and I'm back with another video. Hi, hello, how you doing? My name is Harriyanna. Welcome back to the pirate ship, also known as Harry Hook's pirate ship. I'm the captain, you are not my first mate, and I got no first mate because you wanna know why? Bring your ear closer to the speaker so you can hear me clearly. Come here. Nobody's worthy of being the first mate, but hi, hello, how are you doing? My name is Harriyanna and I like to make content based on nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues that I find within those spaces. Happy Valentine's Day! I did want to give you all a Valentine's Day upload. Not so like a video about like Valentine's Day or anything like that, but y'all like Toji. I am aware that a lot of people have a crush on Toji, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put that in there just for y'all. I love Toji. He's a hot ass mess. I'm allowed to have a problematic faith, okay, just like everybody else. For today's video, we will be talking about the subject of community failure and how I think it applies to many different things and how I think Monster High does a great job of showing that. But before we get there, I just have a few quick little announcements to make. We will be talking about this book in this video here, but me and my friend Amaya Janelle, we wrote this book together called Do Not Call Me Sis. It's a collection of personal essays about fandom, misogynoir, ableism, entertainment, and white feminism. We are having a book discussion for it on February 17th, 2024. If you guys would like to come, the tickets are available for purchase on my website, harriyannahook.com. I will have that link down below, and I'll also have the link down below if you guys would like to get the book just as well. It's not a long read, by the way. It's only about like 150 pages. If you get the digital copy, you get it right away. If you get the physical copy, it is signed personally by me, and there's also an audiobook version of it available just as well. So yeah, the second announcement is that I just have a new zine out. It's called What I Was Doing Instead of My Homework. It is just a collection of humorous stories about fandoms that I was a part of growing up. It's a pretty light read, and when I say light read, it's not as dark and somewhat depressing, I'd say, as this book, because this book does get very sad at a certain point, but that book is more so ranty and on the humorous side. So if you are interested in that, I will have the link to that down below. Now let's actually get into what today's subject matter is. So I got my handy dandy notes right here. Let's go ahead and get started. What exactly is community failure? Community failure is exactly what it sounds like when the community fails a person or individuals that are within that said community. community. Now, community failure isn't limited to just one thing. There's numerous things that can fall into this. As I was talking about in the opening for this video, the example of community failure right there had to be with Toji's family not, loving him, and it resulted in him doing all that stupid ass shit that he did later on. I have had my own personal experiences with community failure as recent as October of 2023, but I want to talk about some more media examples and some lifestyle examples too, where this is very prominent. A lot of people on this platform have been very vocal about the subject of hairstylists are very much unprofessional, but I also want to bring a little bit more nuance to that situation, because we sit here and we say that this stylist is unprofessional doing this and that and the third, but there is a new thing that I have noticed that these Instagram stylists, and it's not even just stylists, these are nail techs that are doing this, and I noticed that lash techs have been doing this just as well, is that they are using their clients, using their fucking clientele. They are sitting here and telling the most embarrassing stories about them for views. Because I remember it was one where this one person was talking about how the person's hair that they were doing, her car ended up breaking down before it was time to go. And it was just like, yeah, she went to come get her hair done first instead of actually paying off her car to get it fixed. This is so common to the point where I actually got on YouTube Shorts and had spoken about how this situation kind of frustrates me a bit. Can I rant about something real quick? Are getting a little bit too comfortable talking bad about their clients and customers. And this isn't a situation of where a customer or client does you dirty. This isn't that. These are those people that get on the freaking internet and they talk about the littlest things about their clients and customers that are just like little itty bitty embarrassing things about them. And I know we often see this done online with like lash technicians and nail techs and hairdressers, but I'm seeing this shit being done with teachers and therapists too. Honestly, I'm just gonna call it what it is. It's unprofessional, and how are you doing business like this? This shit makes me not want to work with you. Not everything needs to be made into content. Because while I do understand that we would get clients that do things that would upset us, let's say that we had a client that was being unprofessional towards us. They were basically not acting correct. It has gotten to the point where people are no longer understanding that some conversations need to be held out in private. Private is not to social media where everybody can fucking see it. Like at first, I used to think that these videos were funny, but then I realized that these were real people that they were dealing with on the other end. The person they went to service for literally embarrassed them for views and engagement. And it's just a bit frustrating to me, because I understand that when it comes to, self-employment, running a business, basically being your own boss, if you're not doing what you have to do to promote your work, you're not gonna get paid. I get that. I understand that. But it has gotten to the point where people are doing like these cheap and easy tactics to get this engagement and get these clients, because they know that that is what drives the media. Let's be honest, negativity literally drives so much shit. I could be going through my Instagram reels and it'll just be so much negativity, including lash techs, nail techs, and hairstylists talking bad about their clientele. And they'll sit here and they'll say things like, y'all, it's just a joke. Y'all don't take it seriously. It's not that deep. But do you not realize that that is going to affect your future customers' trust with you? I'm sorry, but it's gonna make me feel a bit uneasy knowing that that is going to blast my business to their social media, because they know that people will find this kind of content funny. I don't know. It really is going to affect the trust that a lot of these clients have with the people that they are seeing for these services. And guess what? When it comes to lash techs, nail techs, and hairstylists, I understand that the community showing up for these people is what's going to help them. But also, Respect goes both ways. While yes, we need these people to show up for you, you also have to remember that you play a part into this just as well. You need to give them that same respect back. Because I know we sit here and we talk about how a lot of these stylists don't wash hair and they'll be nasty and rude as fuck to their clients. I was talking to my friend about this the other day, and they were talking about how they would feel so uneasy in the chair getting their hair braided because the person that would be braiding their hair wouldn't, like, you know, want to speak to them. A lot of it is really coming down to just y'all need to do better with how you interact with people. But I'm kind of far removed from that conversation about how a lot of these IG lash techs, IG nail techs, IG hairstylists are unprofessional on that aspect. I want to bring something new to this conversation because I'm really starting to get frustrated with the way a lot of them are building their clientele, but also how they are building their following on social media. Because one thing I can say about this is that I wouldn't be surprised if these people were building this following on social media, but they weren't getting any new clients coming in because of that said behavior that they were putting out. There is a time and place for everything. You do not need to sit here and blast your customers' business simply because you know it's going to get people talking. I will never forget about that one situation of that girl talking about how one of her customers had came to her and said, hey, there was a situation that happened with my family. I'm pretty sure that the girl's boyfriend had died or something like that. And she was like, I need to get a refund. And knowing the type of situation that is, I would most likely give the person a refund. There have been times where people have contacted me before and were like, hey Harry, there's a problem going on. Do you think I can get a refund? I really am in a bad place right now. And being the type of person that I am, I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I'll give you a refund. It's fine. But this person, not only did they just not give this person a refund, or just cancel the appointment completely, because one thing about a lot of these people is that they be wanting you to pay advance. They be wanting you to pay 2 weeks in advance to book the appointment, and then when the day of the appointment comes, they be wanting to cancel on you or not getting your money back. It's pretty obvious that this person had their money already. And instead of just like, they hadn't done the service yet, they were like, no, you can't get your money back. And they're just sitting here talking bad shit about how this person wants their money back because they need this money because a person in their family just passed away. Like, what? And the thing about it is that this post did go viral on social media. That person did get dragged accordingly. People sit here and act as if this is only just a problem with hairstylists, because I get on YouTube and I see everybody talking about the hairstylists. Nah, we need to start talking about them lash girlies, and we also need to start talking about them nail techs too. And we also need to start talking about the makeup artists. Because it's always this particular type of work that has to do with beauty, where people are doing all of this shit towards their clientele and customers, and it's just frustrating and it's just sad. How are you gonna expect this community to show up for you if you're not going to respect them? And I noticed that people have been talking about how a lot of these people that work in beauty, they are returning back to their old 9-to-5 jobs, or they're not doing their job full time anymore and they're just doing it part time now. And part of that has to do with the fact that, well, yes, I understand we are in a recession, inflation is through the roof, too much shit just costs too much. I get it, I understand that, but also a lot of people don't feel comfortable with going to y'all no more, because they see what y'all do on social media to get engagement. They have been to you. They know people who have been to you and have talked about their bad experiences with you. Word gets around, people are getting fed up, and a lot of people are just going home and figuring out how to do these treatments to themselves. And it's also leading to another problem with that too, because a lot of people have been fucking up their eyeballs, okay, because they've been trying to do like their own lashes. People have been messing up their nail beds because they've been trying to do their own acrylics and gel sets. And then also people have been messing up their hair because they don't know how to braid properly. People don't know how to wash their hair properly. People are doing at-home relaxers going wrong. It is leading to a lot of people trying to do these services on their own and failing because, like, one, they don't have the skill to do them. They're not taking the time to do better and get learned about them. But some people just kind of don't have it, and that's okay. Some people just don't know that they can be able to do this. I know I can never do lashes, y'all, because the hands be we could also sit here and talk about how a lot of these beauticians want to sit here and, you know, they're charging outrageous ass prices because they're just like, I want to be able to get rich off of doing this. Listen, if any of you guys have actually paid attention to the history of jobs that have to do with beauty. I think I want y'all to look at it from a standpoint of working on a film set. Those people that are doing hair and makeup on nail sets, they are not making nearly as much money as you think they are. You may think so because their name is attached to a big blockbuster film or a TV show that everybody is watching, but baby, no. A lot of them are very much working class. Because I remember the one TV show that I had worked on, a lot of the hairstylists that worked there, they worked at another salon on the weekend. I don't know, like, what is that? What is that person's name? Arrogant Tay? Y'all are not all about to be out here be like Arrogant Tay. Y'all are not about to sit here and be like all of these lash techs that do celebrity lashes. This is not necessarily a job that you can be getting rich from. But I feel like because social media has tricked people into thinking that it is, that is where so much of this frustration just comes from. There's a lot of things that come into it when it comes to community and beauty, but that was just something that I really wanted to get off my chest. Now let's move on to the next example of community failure. The next example I want to give is unfortunately Miraculous Ladybug, and this is more so about the people that work behind the scenes of the show than the material that is in the show itself to a certain extent. This is actually a part that I have wrote about in my book. Do Not Call Me Sis, and it is from this section called Are You Afraid to Draw Black People? Because yeah, the colorism was coloring. I'm gonna read you guys a quick section of that and then continue on with my talking point about how Miraculous Ladybug continues to fail the community that they have created. And when I say community that they have created, I mean the fans of color that stick around for this fuck ass show. When it comes to the subject of anti-blackness in animation, Miraculous Ladybug always finds its way into the picture. It is disturbing how this franchise always finds a way to pick on people of color, make them angry, and refuse to change their practices. It's no better than this behavior is expressed through the fandom. Miraculous Ladybug as a whole is never beaten to anti-black allegations. The production puts anti-blackness out and the fans copy that behavior. Max is a black character shoved in the background and does not contribute much to the plot. Mind you, Max is the darkest character in the show and there's nothing racially ambiguous about him. Because Max's appearance is unapologetically black, fans with anti-black views constantly draw him with lighter skin to make him more air quote appealing to them. It's bad enough that Max gets whitewashed by the franchise's fans. It's no better when the people in charge of the production do it just as well. Max already gets whitewashed when he transforms into a superhero, but in the film Ladybug and Cat Noir the movie, they made him much lighter and loosened his curl pattern. There was no reason for them to do that. I want to keep this section of Miraculous Ladybug just brief and short because I really haven't wanted to limit how much I speak about this show on this channel because I just have no desire to make full-on videos about it because as much as I sit here and talk about the way this production's crew treats people of color, they're not going to do anything to change that because they are aware of what we are saying. They see it, they just simply don't care. And the weirdest thing that I have noticed is that they treat it as if they're doing the people of color that watch this show a favor. They're like, yeah, y'all should be thankful that we put you here. It doesn't matter what we do with y'all. And I don't like that way of thinking. Miraculous Ladybug always finds new ways to fail. It's just community overall, the fans. But it's just like a different type of nasty when it comes to the people of color that just keep sitting and watching the show. That's why so many of us have just become so far removed from the series in general, especially with what Jeremy Zag supports that I can't say because it's gonna get demonetized. All I'm gonna say on that is Free Palestine. But that show has failed its community long enough, and seeing that they are doing anti-black shit all over again, it's disappointing but not surprising. The last example of community failure I want to speak about before we move on to Monster High has to be something that happened with me back in October of 2023 where I just like I still get angry thinking about it. So basically, long story short, I was at this event and one of the guests that was at this event ended up putting their hands on me. They pushed me and long story short, it upset me. Mind you, I tried to give this person the benefit of the doubt because yeah, it was a bit of a crowded environment. Listen, the space that we was in was not crowded. This person most likely was drunk or they could have been high. they could have been under the influence because over half the people that were in that room were under the influence. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt saying, oh, they didn't mean to, they didn't yada yada yada. But also at the same time, I'm just like, why is this type of behavior excused? Because I have seen this person be rude to people before. I personally just don't want to go back to this place anymore because it is seen as supposed to be a safe space for the community. But in that moment when that person put their hands on me and I felt as if I couldn't respond because they were a guest, I felt genuinely concerned for myself, and I don't even know if I want to go back to this establishment. I'm making this as ambiguous as possible because I don't want nobody trying to come for me saying that I'm making them look bad and this and that and the third. So to each his own. It's whatever, it's said and it's done. But let me just sit here and tell you, I am not the only person who has said something about how they felt unsafe within this in-person environment. That's just what I'm gonna say on that. Now, let's move forward with Monster High. Disclaimer, before we move any further, discussing what happens in Monster High is not the same thing as hating on it. I'm not hating on any of the creative decisions that were made with the characters I am about to speak about. I do make a point about how Monster High started to get repetitive with its storytelling towards the end of that section, but overall, I am appreciative of how Monster High chose to go this route instead of making everything out to be sunshine and rainbows. I know people can read me to be talking bad about things because of my tone and my voice, but this is not me saying that these were bad decisions that the franchise made. Alright, let's move forward. So I'm going to read you guys what I wrote word for word first because I just don't want to butcher it. And then we're going to get into the characters. I said one reason that I like Monster High is that it doesn't talk down to its audience most of the time. And I'm talking more so about the first generation of Monster High here. The first generation, and I say part of the second generation, halfway through Gen 2, it started going downhill. But anyway, I said I appreciate how this franchise does a great job of showing what happens when you put together a community for the betterment of the people in it, but not putting in the work to make the community safe or for the people within the community to get the help that they need. And this is the main reason why I don't necessarily like that headmaster, that headless master specifically, Monster High's principal. I'm not the biggest fan of her. And I see, y'all be giving her a little bit too much dip on her too. I see her get so much praise where people was like, yeah, she did so good for this community. She did this and that and the third. And I was like, personally, I think she could be a much better principal. I'm gonna sit here and talk about my frustrations with the headless master. And the first candidate up on the docket would have to be Miss Toralei Strike. Toralei is a very interesting character to me. She is a character that I didn't necessarily care too much for growing up, but when I got older, meaning adulthood, I was able to understand her a bit more, and now she is just a character that I just like enjoy laughing at, because while she is seen to be one of the major antagonists of the series Monster High, she often gets what she deserves in the end. That's why I'm kind of fine with that. Long story short, Toralei does stupid things and then she gets in trouble for those said stupid things. But let's actually go into detail about why she acts the way she does. For those who don't know, she literally found Toralei off the street. Yeah, she rescued her, and more so, she got her out of juvie with her sisters. Toralei is somebody whose family, like Toji, has failed them. She was basically living on the street. She was homeless, and because she was doing what she needed to get by to survive, you know, stealing in order to eat and have clothes on her back, she ended up getting sent to juvie. And Toralei reminds me a lot of Selena Kyle. Like, those two characters mirror each other, and I'm specifically talking about Selena Kyle from the Lauren Miracle Under the Moon book. I'm gonna be reviewing that book soon on my channel, but there's a lot of similarities with those two characters there, that being that they are both homeless and they have to go and steal things in order to survive, and they're written off to be as like bad people. Personally, wouldn't start to write off Toralei as a bad person until she actually got into Monster High, where we start to notice that there is much more to her than we think. Because Toralei ended up going to juvie, and she basically was rescued from there from the Headless Master and was taken to Monster High. Now, Monster High, like I said, is supposed to be a safe haven for monsters. And it is also a place for monsters and humans to be able to get along. But let me tell you, I don't like that saying that goes along the line of you can take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the person. Let me tell you this, Toralei is somebody that has been going through it since birth. You really think that if you remove her from that environment and place her in her new one, that is all that you need to do for her in order for her to, become better, to actually grow? No, I feel like there's just so much effort that needed to be put in with Toralei. That girl needed therapy. And while it's great that she no longer was living on the streets, and it's great that she was no longer locked up, her just going around and hurting everybody and being irritating as hell wasn't benefiting anybody in there. And we also get to see that because Toralei never necessarily had this community in her life until she met her sisters, the cat sisters, we see that Toralei isn't necessarily the kindest, and that is a result of her not necessarily having a community, her said community failing her. And you want to know exactly how her community failed her? Because Toralei has their siblings, I'm pretty sure. They all got adopted and she didn't. They just left her ass there. While Toralei is very, very annoying, and she gets herself wrapped up into so many sticky situations. That's why when howleen was about to fight her, I was on howleen's side. Whatever Toralei did, she did it. Especially what she did in New York. What she did in New York was so funny but extremely unacceptable. When you sit and realize that this girl just needs guidance, so much more about her makes sense. And I find it sad that she gravitates towards people that also do awful things. But that's kind of all she knows. Because growing up, and she's still growing up, she kind of had to sit and do bad things in order to survive. And I do want to sit here and say that Toralei doesn't necessarily know any better. But here, like I said, she needs help. She needs guidance. And the people her own age are sitting here telling her that she's wrong and this and that and the third. They're going to keep doing that and keep sitting there and going off on her and trying to, teach her a lesson. And it's sad because you see that Toralei does want to fit in. She doesn't like it when people are like, yeah, we don't want you here. We don't want you around. But she fails to realize that in order for people to actually want her there and to want to include her in things, she's gonna have to fix her behavior. If Toralei wants to be a part of this community, she's going to have to do more for that community to accept her. Yeah, she has her sisters, but at the end of the day, they came from the same place, they came from the same jail. All three of them need help. I'm telling you, the Headless Master, what she does in the next part that I'm going to talk about, she can really run me my fade. She can really run me my fade. Because the next situation I want to talk about has to do with Howleen Wolf. Y'all know Howleen's literally my favorite Monster High character. I have an entire separate Howleen Wolf video coming. It was supposed to come out this week. It's not ready to come out though. It's not necessarily ready to come out because there's an entire section of it where I can just hear myself screaming in the back of my head. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to calm down about this first and then continue it later. But like Toralei, Howleen is a character that needs guidance. She wasn't brought up the same way that Toralei was, meaning that Howleen was not living on the streets. She was not in juvie, but she does live with a big family, and she's often in the shadows of her older siblings. From my knowledge, I'm pretty sure Howleen is the baby of the family. Well, she's the baby of the four that we know of. We have Claudia, the oldest, then we have Claude, then we have Claudine, and then we have Howleen. And because Howleen is in the shadow of her older siblings, they all kind of have their own thing that they're talented and known for. She's still trying to figure out who she is as a person, but she doesn't necessarily fit in as well as Claude and Claudine. And then her older sister Claudia as literally living across the country. She don't live across the country, she lives in another country. So in the beginning of Monster High 13 Wishes, which is basically my Joker, she almost sets the school on fire trying to get attention. Is she wrong? Yes. Does she get punished for it? Rightfully so. But I think this punishment should have been handled a little bit better, because this is one thing I have caught on when I was in high school. If a student does something like this, you need to come to the understanding of why they did that said thing. Because if you just sit here and not try to understand anything that is going on with them, that behavior can repeat, but it also makes them feel unheard. And it also makes them feel like no one cares about them. Because while I do think Howleen deserved to get detention for almost setting the day of school on fire, yes, she was wrong, I do think that she should have called her in to ask why she did that said thing. And that's just a bit frustrating in my opinion, because I felt like nobody wanted to sit down with Howleen and talk to her about why she did the thing that she did. Howleen, we see that her going to detention in this movie did not help her at all. And that is why she ended up making such terrible decisions the more this movie goes on. I will sit here and defend Howleen Wolf as much as I can. I love her. That is my daughter right there. But I'm gonna sit here and call her out when she's wrong, but also I will sit here and talk about how her community failed her and that contributed to why she acted the way she did. So we have the first problem there, where they didn't want to get an understanding of what she did. It just strictly punished her, didn't want to call her in for a meeting, didn't want to talk to her about why she was acting the way she did. That is why she ended up making all them stupid ass decisions, yada yada yada. But I need to get into detail about what was going on with her and Claudine. I don't want Claudine's fans to see this as Claudine slander. Mind y'all, I like Claudine's character. I really do. But the dynamic between her and Howleen just goes to show you that at the end of the day, this is just like a realistic sibling dynamic. I'm glad that it is realistic, but it also goes to show you that if your older sibling not nice to the younger one, things like this will happen. I had mentioned this in my video before that I have made about Monster High 13 Wishes, but the way Claudine speaks to Howleen is not the same way that she speaks to her friends. And Howleen sees this behavior, and you want to know why? Because often when Howleen is with Claudine, her friends are around. She sees Claudine speak to the rest of them normally, but she sees how differently that she speaks to her. And it's something that I have noticed when it comes to the way Claudine speaks to Howleen. She speaks more to Howleen like a parent. Like she talks to her like she's her mother. And I understand that the older sibling is supposed to guide the younger sibling, but let me tell you this, as somebody who is the baby, as somebody who is the youngest, we do not like it when the older sibling or the older cousin talks to us like they are our mama or daddy. We can't stand it. It makes us not want to listen to them, because you have this person here that is not that much older than you. They're not old enough to be your mama, therefore you feel like they shouldn't speak to you in that type of way. And also thinking back to how Howleen got in trouble for the school almost burning down, we see also in this movie that she gets bullied like in the bathroom. Mind you, that is something I think is worthy of detention. I do think that you should be punished if you are bullying another student. Let's just go ahead and call that out. When it comes to the subject of bullying, I feel like schools do not do a great job of the way they handled it. My schools in the past didn't do a good job of the way they handled my situations with bullying, especially when I was in elementary school, when my literal teacher was bullying me and they did not help me. They did not. Y'all want to know their excuse? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't give a fuck. They were like, we already removed like 2 other students from this class, so we can't remove you. What logic? What makes you think that things are going to get better from this point, and y'all kept getting surprised that things just kept getting worse and worse and worse? Well, maybe it's because my literal teacher was picking on me and you didn't want to step in and actually, you know, do your fucking job. The school board done failed so many of us. Anyways. But moving forward, we see Howleen ended up getting detention for what she did. When that girl started bullying her like that, why wasn't she punished for what she had done? Like, yeah, Howleen could have went and snitched on that girl, but also we had to take into consideration that when it comes to communities, they often protect bullies. That is just something that I have learned. That is something that I have just caught on to. When people see that one person is being bullied by another person, they're most likely not going to do that. They're just going to be like, that's not my business. I'm going to ignore that. I get that. I understand why people act that way. Like, Howleen, get behind me. Get behind me. Monster High is another thing that just irritates me, because like I said, a lot of people just give the headless master too much dip on her chip, because there is so much chaos that is going on at that school and she's just low-key oblivious to a lot of it. until it gets to the point where it's extremely bad. Mainly when she realized that she's going to be involved in something. Like I said, the school burning down. I don't know, y'all. I never liked this lady when I was younger. And now that I'm a lot older and realizing that she could have done much more to help the community, the entirety of Howleen's character is just her trying to figure out who she is as a person. And we can say that about a lot of the other Monster High characters too, just as well. But her case is a very interesting one because it's obvious that this girl is crying for help and she's just not getting the support that she needs. And I do think that Claudine is a good sister to her, but Claudine's not perfect, and that's okay. She doesn't have to be. And she's still learning and growing as another person just as well. And another thing that she is learning is how to do better with interacting with her sister. So let me tell you something. The way she interacts with Claudia is not going to be similar to the way she interacts with Howleen. And that's okay, because guess what? Claudia is grown. Claudia is older than Claudine. So their dynamic is going to be different than how she is with Howleen, because Claudia and Howleen are two different people. But like I said, they are a family and they gotta have each other's back. We know that Claudine loves her little sister, but it's just going to take her some time to do better with the way she speaks to her and how she views her. I could sit here and like talk about all like the characters of Monster High individually on how I think this community could have bettered them, but we're gonna be here all day. And I'm just gonna limit it down to one last character, one that I have always just had like a bit of a soft spot for growing up, and I will have to be Ghoulia. And you saw the content warning. If you are a Cleo stan, great, good for you. Yeah, I've never been a fan of Cleo since the introduction of Monster High, and long story short, she reminded me too much of people that I was friends with growing up at that time period. That is why the dynamic between her and Ghoulia frustrates me so much. When I was younger, I could never fully understand why Ghoulia often hanged around Cleo, but it's very much clear. They remind me so much of like Regina and Gretchen Wieners. And what exactly do I mean when I say that their dynamic is similar to the one in Mean Girls? Mind you, I don't view Ghoulia to be a mean girl. I think Cleo is, but I don't think Ghoulia is either. I don't even think Gretchen was all that mean to begin with, by the way. But like, you know how they say mean by association? She was technically mean by association because she hung out with Regina. If we say that Gretchen is mean by association, does that mean that Ghoulia is mean by association just as well? But anyways, they are literally like Regina and Gretchen in different fonts. It's interesting to see because while Regina and Gretchen are like besties, they view each other as best friends when really she was just her little minion. I'd say that Cleo and Ghoulia are best friends, but also Cleo really keeps Ghoulia around because of how much Ghoulia does for her. And it has gotten to the point where you can tell that Cleo is a bit dependent on Ghoulia. And what makes Ghoulia so interesting as a character, because I find it hard to believe that she's not aware of how Cleo treats other people. She's fully aware. She knows pretty much everything about Cleo. She knows how awful she treats people. But she's like also on the side like, yeah, she doesn't treat me that way because I genuinely do like her and I genuinely do care for her. And I really feel like that has a lot to do with the limited speech that Ghoulia has, because we know that she can't necessarily talk all that much. But I noticed something, because I noticed that we would see Claudine was not afraid to call out Cleo on her shit, and that is part of the reason why I adore Claudine so much. And it also goes to show you why so many of the girls didn't really fuck with Cleo all that much, because Cleo was literally a bitch. I'm not even trying to be funny. That's literally so much of what there is to her character, and it's okay to view her like that. She's literally the mean girl of Monster High, y'all. Like, we have Toralei, she is a whole nother thing, okay? But Cleo is like the rich mean girl. Toralei broke. And that's just the entirety of Cleo's character. She's just the rich, mean girl. But it's interesting to see because we see that there are people at the school that are not afraid to stand up for her and call her out on her shit. And it's different because when we look at Mean Girls, we see that a lot of people have made it clear that they don't like Regina, but they kind of fear her. We start to see that when Regina no longer runs the school, people are finally, you know, strong enough, I'd say. They're no longer scared of her and they're okay with being able to call her out on her shit. That is not necessarily the case that I see with Cleo and Monster High, because from the jump, not too long, we see people will call out Cleo for the slick shit that she be saying. I'm telling you, when Howleen got her good and Monster High 13 wishes, I was cheering on her side. I was like, yes, girl, get her. Anytime Toralei got into it with Cleo, I was on Toralei's side. I was like, get her, girl, get her, girl, get her, girl. And that's one thing I say I like a little bit more when it comes to Monster High opposed to Mean Girls, is because we never really necessarily see anybody stand up to Regina until it gets to a certain point. But from the beginning, we always seen people check Cleo on her BS. But we see that one of the main people that is around Cleo the most that doesn't do that is Ghoulia. By the way, y'all, I'm sorry, my allergies just started getting really bad in the middle of me recording this, so I'm gonna try to hurry up and wrap it up. There have been occasions where Ghoulia has gotten back at Cleo for treating her horribly, as she should, because Cleo can be a much better friend to her. We'll go ahead and say that. But also Monster High is just showing how a lot of these people are learning how to become better friends to one another. But also Cleo has done things behind Ghoulia's back that are not necessarily all that nice, because one of the main things that Chloe, well, I call her Chloe, I mean, there's similarities there, but it's one instance that really did frustrate me a bit because it hit a little too close to home, was when Cleo had encouraged Claudine to cheat off Ghoulia's paper. And I was like, why would you risk your best friend getting in trouble? Girl, Cleo, what's going on? And we can't sit here and say that Cleo is another example of community failure just as well, because if you've seen Boo York, we are aware that her dad, not just her dad, but her older sister, they're not that great to her either. It's just an endless cycle of mess, and I can't stand the fact that Ghoulia is caught up in Cleo's mess, because Ghoulia is literally so sweet. She's literally like America's sweetheart. Okay, what do we call America in Monster High? I be forgetting names. Okay, it's technically America, and I was like, okay, y'all say that this place is called America, but why is New York called Boo York? Child, anyway, listen, I love Monster High, but there's just a lot of things about it that just still don't make sense to this day. The Monster High lore is one that, it needs some work. Now my earring popping off. But the entire dynamic with Cleo and Ghoulia is, I can't even tell if this is a genuine friendship or not, because it really feels as if Cleo loses Ghoulia, she kind of don't really have any other friends, I'd say. And I'm talking about the type of connection that she has formed with Ghoulia, because I say the really only other person that Cleo would be, air quote, besties with would have to be Deuce. And mind you, be for real, who was watching Monster High for Deuce? Who is? I low-key just don't care about him. Especially Abby's little boyfriend. He's irritating. And when I say it's a bit jarring how you'd see Cleo and Ghoulia be best friends, it's more so having to do with the fact that they have extremely different personalities. Because I remember one time I was a little bit irritated with Ghoulia's character, because I was like, how could someone like her be so far up Cleo's ass? How could she be such best friends with her? And then when I came to an understanding of the type of person that Ghoulia is, it makes more sense, and that's why I gave her some grace on that right there. Because like I said, I see a lot of myself in Ghoulia. I really do. And I'm talking more so about my adult self, because I see a lot of my past self growing up in Howleen, but a lot of my adult self would have to be Ghoulia, because I have been in situations before where the person that I am, like, air quote, friends with or working with or whatever the fuck, they aren't necessarily the kindest for me, and they want me to treat it as if, like, oh, you should be grateful that I have you here, you should be grateful for this and that and the third, realizing that this person depends on so much for me. Sorry, I'm like stuttering over my words right now. It's just a little hint too close to home at the moment. Because while I sit here and say that I think Cleo is dependent on Ghoulia, Ghoulia dependent on her to a certain extent just as well. But also talking about Cleo and the way her family treats her, I personally don't think she realizes that so much of her behaviors towards Ghoulia are wrong. And part of that has to do with the fact that Ghoulia isn't necessarily doing much about it when she treats her bad. Like, there have been a few instances where Ghoulia has called out Cleo and gotten back at her for her bad behavior towards her, as she rightfully did, basically saying don't do that fuck shit again. But also it's just kind of like a repeated cycle of the same thing going on, and that is just so much of what Monster High is. And it's part of the reason why I started to get frustrated with the movies after Boo York. Mind you, like I said, so much of the movies and material went downhill after the Boo York era, but I noticed that it started to just rehash a lot of the things that we kept seeing from the beginning, and they just kept finding new ways to retell the same shit over and over and over again. And like I said, yeah, yes, I understand these characters are young. We are basically watching, you know, them grow up. This is their adolescence. This is a time of their life where they're still just trying to figure out how to interact with others. But it gets to a certain point where I'm just like, this keeps going on and on and on and on and on. Are they not going to grow? Are they not going to change? Why are they still the same person that they were in the beginning of the generation and in the end of the generation? Did we go from point A to point B, or did we go from point A to point B and then round back around to point A? I think it is important to tell stories about flawed people. That is why I adore Monster High so much. But then again, it gets frustrating because you get to a point where it's just like, okay, we told this story already. We done did this already. Come on, wrap it up, new arc, moving forward. And I think that's just a bit realistic to life because, mind you, that situation that I was talking about earlier, I'm a very fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. High key don't want to go back to that place and run into that person again if something similar happened. Nope. That's maybe because I'm a very anxious person. I don't know. One thing I can appreciate both about Jujutsu Kaisen and Monster High would have to be the fact that they're not afraid to tell stories about flawed individuals. But I appreciate it a little bit more with Monster High because they don't seem to realize how much of a risk that they are taking. Because when it comes to family entertainment, I mentioned this before, is that I can't stand when they speak down to its audience. And Jujutsu Kaisen is not a series that it's not family entertainment. I'll go here and sit there and tell you that. It's for a bit of a more mature audience, even though it technically is shonen. There's a lot of blood, guts, and gore over there. There's profanity over there. It ain't for the faint of heart. Monster High is something that we consider to be more wholesome than Jujutsu Kaisen. But I feel like there are a lot more nuances to both of these franchises than a lot of people seem to get, because when people talk about Toji's character, they just be like, yeah, he shot that girl, and then just leave it at that. Yeah, he left his son, and then they leave it at that. But I'm like, if we actually sit here and look at the material with Toji Fujigiro's character, and before he became Toji Fujigiro, when he was still a part of the Zenin family, we would get some understanding about why he turned out the way he did. Because in order for a person to end up doing the shit that he did, something had to happen to him before. Monster Eye, on the other hand, it isn't just something that tells the story of just one person like Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen, it has a main character, it's Yuji, but it bounces around to many other different people within the Jujutsu sorcerer world. Here, we're in the monster world, and I wouldn't necessarily say that Monster High has one main character. Like, yeah, they have like the big five, that being Dracula, Claudine, Frankie, Cleo, and then Laguna. We have those right there, but there are just so many other different types of stories and characters that are expressed within this series that really sit there and they make you think. These people are in community with one another because they're kind of ostracized from the outside world. They're literal monsters. They know damn well that they will not be accepted in plenty of other places. Like, this is where they come together to be able to feel normal, I'd say. And this is coming from somebody that read the Monster High books, because the Monster High books are a bit different than, I say, the series. Like, not the series, like the movies and then the web series. The books are a bit different. The novels, the one specifically by Lisi Harrison. You may be familiar with her if you have read the Click novels. The books are very similar, by the way. If you like the Click series, you'll probably like the Monster High series. But in those books, we get to see a little bit more of that ostracization where they don't necessarily fit in with the outside world. And that is the reason why they have this community that they are formed together strictly for the monsters. Here, it's just us seeing the monsters. We're just seeing them just interact with one another. It's obvious that a lot of these people have trauma from their families and the way that they were brought up and whatnot, especially with Toralei's story with her literally being homeless. We see that we have this here, but also it just goes to show you on what's going to happen if you put all these fucked up individuals in one group. Chaos. I really do appreciate Boo York, because I think that's one of the films where we see this expressed a lot. I say like Boo York and 13 Wishes. I also really like the Under the Sea one where basically Laguna and Toralei were going back and forth with each other. But specifically Boo York is because it gives us a bit more answers about why Cleo turns out the way she did. Because a lot of what was going on before that, we just saw her be awful towards other people. But then when we get to learn a bit about her family, we're like, yeah, her community at home ain't doing her well. That's why she's out here treating everybody else like this. out here like this. While I do understand that the Headless Master has formed this community for the betterment of the people that are different, there has to be so much more that goes into helping these set individuals so they can be the best that they can be. Like, for one, a lot of these girls need therapy. A lot of them are very unwell. Like, Howleen is very unwell. Toralei is very unwell. Toralei's sisters are unwell. Pretty much all of them are unwell to a certain extent. But I feel like it's one thing how they are just causing problems with one another. Monster High is one of those franchises where I really don't think the adults could have done a much better job of helping the students. They could have, and you can say that a lot about a lot of series that have to do with like a school or adults just like leading a group of people. We can sit there and say that about a lot of that. We can sit here and constantly talk about how Monster High's adults have failed the students, but then we would have no story. I don't know. This is just some of the storytelling of Monster High that I really do appreciate, and it is what I think we can learn a lot from. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you did enjoy it. Once a month, I do a Q&A strictly for my patrons. So if you are interested in asking me questions to be included in this monthly Q&A, go ahead and join my Patreon. You have to join the 250 tier, and I also have the tier available on Ko-fi, by the way. And yeah, so the first question, who's your favorite yellow bird? It's Key Wingley, of course. A lot of these I'm able to like speed through quickly, but some of these are just like, it's gonna take me some time. By the way, all the questions are anonymous, so yeah. This person asks, how come you're one of maybe two people I've heard talk about Gangsta and Michiko and Hachin? Listen, Gangsta, listen. Okay, mainly it has to do with the fact that I love Warwick Arcangelo. I really do love that man, but also part of the reason my love for Gangsta comes more so from the fact that I can relate to Warwick's character, but I can relate a little too much to Alex's character just as well. And part of the reason why I just get irritated so much when it comes to the subject of anime, when I ask for anime recommendations, is that people constantly recommend me anime that is about, like, you know, kids growing up and whatnot, or school, and I'm just deeply tired of that. That's part of the reason why I gave Rent a Girlfriend a chance. And while Rent a Girlfriend is a hot ass mess, it's entertaining. It takes place in college, it takes place with a group of young adults, and that is just something that I just desperately want a lot more of when it comes to anime. And that's part of the reason why I like Michiko and Hachin so much. Michiko and Hachin is an anime I feel like so many black people have seen, especially black women and femme presenting people, because that's one of like the more popular anime series where like a black woman, like a visibly black woman specifically, is the main character, and it has great storytelling despite there actually being a lot of flaws with that writing, but I still deeply do appreciate it. And like I said, Michiko with Hachin falls more so in the josei category. It can be seen a bit as seinen, and Gangsta is seinen specifically. It has a lot to do with the fact that I just been desperately wanting more anime and manga. Michiko and Hachin doesn't have a manga, but I just been wanting more anime about adults, especially those who are people of color and like are visibly people of color. Because Warwick is white. Yeah, Work is white, but like Alex she's Blasian, and you know, Michiko is black. And it takes place like in South America, I'm pretty sure. Gangsta takes place in like some fictional place. I don't know where it is. But it's just, I feel like those are two anime that are about adults and like them just trying to get through it. And they're, I wouldn't say they're necessarily poor. They do have to like struggle to get money and get by and all of that. The characters feel very real, I'd say. Like, as much as Michiko annoys me, I do know people who are a lot like her. I can say that I saw a lot of myself within her character at times just as well. I appreciate the fact that these like two series, the people actually feel like people. Because sometimes when I'm watching anime, I get annoyed because the people feel more so like tropes than actual, like, you know, people. But everyone just feels realistic in a sense, I'd say. And like, I can't even really describe and put my finger on why I love Gangsta so much, but I'm constantly screaming at y'all to go read the manga. But yeah, like, mainly it just has to do with the fact that I've just been wanting more anime stories about adults, and those are just two that I really, really enjoyed because of the characters that are put into them. By the way, I'm not the biggest fan of Nick. Like, Nick, you know, it's Warwick and Nick. I'm not the biggest fan of Nick. I'm just not. I don't know. Warwick forever. And also part of the reason my like favorite is Warwick has to do with the fact that a lot of like my favorite characters that I have growing up, they remind me a lot of him. And this person asks, did you ever watch The Rebuild? I don't think I know what The Rebuild is. Give me a sec, I'm gonna look it up. You mean The Rebuild of Evangelion? Okay, I've had The Rebuild of Evangelion like in my like watch list, but I just never watched it. What is The Rebuild, by the way? If you're watching this, please comment down below, because I'm like, what is there? Are you talking about Evangelion? Like, what are you talking about? Okay, the next question is, what did you use to create your bomb-ass website? Okay, my friend actually set my website up for me, but I've actually been able to do it on my own now. My website is ran through Shopify. And Shopify is basically a website that people use to sell like products, but they also make it to where you can just like run a site too. Because my website, it's not just a shop, it's also a blog just as well. So yeah, my site is ran through Shopify. By the way, a lot of people don't seem to know that I have to pay to keep that domain. Jujutsu Kaisen to ruin that word for me, but you have to pay to like run a website. A lot of people don't seem to know that, so yeah, you kind of have to pay to have your own domain just as well. That's why a lot of people don't really have their own site, because you gotta pay a fee. Next question. I really admire your consistency. Thank you. On the days where you don't feel like turning on the camera, how do you find the motivation to get your work done? Asking for myself. I realize that if I don't do YouTube, I won't get paid. Like, I hate to say it, all about something ridiculous, but like, realizing that I'm not gonna make my money if I don't get up on YouTube and post, it really, yeah, it'll give me the motivation to get my ass up. But I do have days where I'm just not necessarily feeling it. Let me tell you, you're not always gonna like everything about your job. There are gonna be days where you just don't want to go to work. Because I remember when I used to work on that TV show, I loved working on that TV show. Did I really want to go there every day that I was booked? Hell no. Like, absolutely not. But also, I just want to point out that I've been doing YouTube since I was like 15 years old. I've been doing YouTube for a long ass time, okay? So I'm just a bit used to it at this point, I'd say. But also, YouTube is something that I genuinely just like doing. And also, guess what? I like to make the videos that I want to watch. That is one big thing about me. Make the content that you would like to see. That'll give you the motivation to create more. Okay, next is, after watching the nerd... No, undo. I accidentally deleted it. No, okay, we're back. Okay. After watching the Nerd Olympics video, what show anime do you watch nowadays that's for your own enjoyment? Gangsta. Listen, that is, mind you, Gangsta is something that I have a lot of enjoyment. I get a lot of enjoyment out of, but I personally don't want to monetize that series just yet. Or at all, mainly because that's just something that I just hold near and dear to my heart. But also, I personally don't even think people gonna sit there and watch me talk about that series. I don't know, but Jujutsu Kaisen is something that I felt like I couldn't avoid when it comes to like making money off of, because Jujutsu Kaisen products sell very well. But Gangsta is something that I really do keep to myself for enjoyment. But I also have to say Kif comes on Disney Channel, and it comes on Disney XD just as well. Mind you, I feel like I got a little lucky with Kif, because Gangsta is something that I say is very nuanced with its storytelling. Kif is just a series that I just don't have much to say. Like, I really don't have much to say at all about that show. It's actually concerning. Like, when people ask me about Kif, I just say, yeah, I like it. It's cute. And then that's just where it stops. It doesn't necessarily go any further than that. Okay, the next question would have to be advice for college students, particularly study tips. Turn that phone off. Okay, turn that phone off. I'm still serious. I have to still do that when it comes to the surgical work. Turn that phone off. But also, realizing you ain't gonna get that degree if you don't study. I'm really big on like timing yourself. Like, okay, set a timer for like 20 minutes and then read. And then next thing you know, take a break, and then, you know, take a break for like 20 more minutes, and then, you know, set it again for 20 more minutes. Like, you just kind of have to pace yourself, and you also have to do better with timing and whatnot. Also, I really do recommend, when it comes to the subject of like learning about like history and literature and whatnot, as much as people don't want to like say like don't use these sites, I really do recommend like lit charts and spark notes and Smooth especially. I love Smooth so much. And like, I'm trying to like think of the ones that are particularly free for people to use. While I will not sit here and say that you need to depend on those sites to do your homework with, they are very good to use if you need help understanding what you just read. Because currently in class right now, we are studying the coquette. And by the way, the coquette, it was written in the 1700s, and we can tell. So I still need some help with understanding what I need to read. But one thing I'll do with the coquette is that I'll read one of the chapters and then I'll go on one of those sites. I use Grade Saver and actually pay for it because I can. It basically rewords what was said, and I'm like, okay, so this is what this line meant and this is what that line. A lot of these services out here for studying aren't necessarily bad, but they're just meant to help you study. You still have to look at that set material. That's why I really like crash course videos, because you cannot comprehend so much of what's going on in your class and what you're learning because the wording can be a bit confusing, and then crash course will basically summarize it, and then you'll be able to comprehend it a little bit more when you go back to it. But yeah, so much of it is just focus, timing, yada yada yada. Also, I don't recommend pulling all-nighters. I really don't. Do you enjoy watching Winnie the Pooh media? Mind you, I am not. Okay, Winnie the Pooh is something that just always was in the background when I was growing up. Like, I've had Winnie the Pooh, like stuffed animals and shit like that. I'm not the biggest Winnie the Pooh fan. I saw the last Winnie the Pooh movie that was like in theaters, not the like live action one, like the hand drawn one. I think it came out like the year after The Princess and the Frog came out. I liked that. I didn't hate it. It was cute. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys are interested in the book discussion, the tickets are still, hold up, not me over here dropping stuff. Okay, like I said, if you are interested in coming to book discussion on the 17th, it is this coming Saturday. Tickets are still available on the website. You would like to get the book, you have to have the book in order to come to the discussion. So yeah, that's that. Can't wait to see you guys there. Some of you have already told me that you were going to be coming, and I cannot wait to sit here and discuss all that has went into this book. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Like I said, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. This is a self-love day, by the way. Don't be sitting here crying because you don't got no boo. Be your own boo. Alright, thank you. Have a good night, day, whatever time of the day you're watching it. I'm just thankful that you watched it with the ads on. Alright, goodbye.
Now that you see, you should beware of the power of three. They come to fight as fast as they can. They're dangerous yet fabulous. Because the Utonium made them eschew. They are the colors of pink, green, and blue. They'll catch you in the blink of an eye and do it all before bedtime. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical that they coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical that. Will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay.